Hello, this is Kathleen with True Crime Talk. Today I'm going to be talking about Terrence Woods Jr., who has been missing since October 5th of 2018. Terrence Woods Jr. was a production worker for a reality TV show. He vanished off of the set in Idaho. I'm going to start by reading an article from OxygenTrueCrime.com. This article was written October 18th of 2022, so last year. It says father is desperately searching for answers for 4 years after son disappeared from remote reality TV set. Terrence Woods Jr. had been working on the remote Idaho set for the reality show Gold Rush when the production company said he dropped his radio, ran down a steep hill, and into the woods. It's been 4 years since Terrence Woods Jr. mysteriously disappeared into the Idaho wilderness, where he was working in production on the set of a reality television show. In the years that have followed, there has been no sign of the then 27-year-old Maryland native who has been described as a happy-go-lucky person and caring friend and who loved to travel the world and spend time with his family. It's been like a cancer eating me from the inside, his father Terrence Woods Sr. told Oxygen.com of his son's agonizing disappearance. Woods Jr. had been working with the production company Raw TV to film the discovery show Gold Rush when authorities say he disappeared on October 5th, 2018. Holly Palin, a spokesperson for Raw, told Oxygen.com that multiple witnesses, including independent local contractors and Raw staff members, reported that Woods Jr. dropped his radio, then spontaneously ran down a steep hill and into the Idaho woods. Terrence went missing in a remote, densely wooded and mountainous area in Idaho that was particularly challenging to search, Ross said in a statement from the company. From the outset, our location team was actively involved in the search for Terrence, and we put a great deal of effort and resource into trying to locate him. Woods Sr. said he heard his son told someone he had to go to the bathroom shortly before running into the Nez Perce National Forest in Oro Grande, Idaho. He said he was told by the production company that his son had an anxiety attack earlier that morning on the set and had to be detained, although he later collected himself and resumed his day. At one point, Woods Sr. said he was told his son also tried to grab a flying drone with his bare hands. But the account of his son's last moments before vanishing have never sat right with Woods Sr., who believes that his son may have been the victim of foul play. I think my son saw something, heard something, or someone did something, and he wanted to get out of there, Woods Sr. said. When asked about his behavior on the set, Palin told Oxygen.com that Woods Jr. had been offered support as he learned new skills on the job, which he had started just 5 days earlier on September 30th. The shoot had run without any issues, and Terrence appeared excited to be back with Raw and had also discussed working with Raw again in the future on other projects, she said. As a junior member of the team, he was new to some tasks. He was offered support, was eager to learn, and continued to improve his skills. While Palin did not specifically mention any incident that morning, a 911 call log reporting the disappearance did reference the alleged mental breakdown that Woods Jr. had earlier that day. Terrence has been having a really hard time emotionally and had a mental breakdown earlier today, read the log transcript, according to previous reporting by Deadline. Before his disappearance, Woods Jr. had lived in the UK for 5 years, where he worked on British television shows like The Voice UK and Saving Africa's Elephants, Hugh and the Ivory War, according to the news outlet. Friend Rochelle Newman told Oxygen.com that she met Woods Jr. at a networking event for PACT, a TV diversity initiative both were working on at the time. She described Woods Jr. as a quiet, kind, and very caring person who had no known history of anxiety or mental health problems. He enjoyed meeting new people and had friends from all around the world because of his travels, she said. Cassandra Hall Alexander also spoke with Deadline about her friend in 2020 and said during all the time she had worked with him, she never noticed him having any mental health issues. It doesn't make sense when I hear people say that he struggled with his mental health or that he didn't live up to expectations, she said. I spent 6 months on a TV production course with him, and he always exceeded expectations and never ever showed signs of having any mental health problems. Wood Sr. told Oxygen.com that his son had only been in Idaho for just 24 hours and had spent the previous days on location in Montana. He's tried to get surveillance footage to confirm that his son made it to Idaho with the crew, but said has never been given any proof by authorities. He is also still trying to find someone who could speak to his son's mental state in the days leading up to the disappearance. According to his account, by the time Wood Sr. arrived in Idaho after the disappearance, most of the crew who had been with his son were already gone, and he was only able to talk to one person. Terrence was the youngest person and the only person of color with the crew. Raw TV has offered slim to any help in trying to find him, he wrote this month in a message to the media provided to Oxygen.com. Up to this day, they have not even given us the names of the 9 out of 10 people he was with. He also questioned why those around him didn't do more to help him if he did, in fact, have an anxiety attack that morning. If all of this took place first thing in the morning, in the afternoon, or whatever, why didn't anyone call for professional medical assistance? Wood Sr. said. Although some of what happened that day remains a mystery, there were signs that Woods Jr. was unsettled on the set. The day of his disappearance, Palin said Woods Jr. requested to leave the production on October 10th because his mother was unwell. We were sympathetic to his situation and made the necessary arrangements for him to leave on 10th October, she said via email. Woods Sr. said his son had told the production company that his mother had to have surgery, but his mother had no surgery scheduled. Woods Sr. believes his son must have been desperate to get away from the set for some reason. If he told them his mother was having a so-called emergency surgery, he wanted to leave, he said. While questions continued to swirl for the family, Palin adamantly denied the allegation that Woods Jr. had been the victim of foul play. The suggestion that Raw had anything to do with Terrence's disappearance is inaccurate and unfounded. The thorough police investigation has found no evidence to support any claims of wrongdoing by Raw, she said. Former Idaho County Sheriff Doug Giddings, who was responsible for the investigation, is now retired, but told Deadline in 2020 that the investigation revealed no evidence to support speculative suggestion of foul play. They wanted to believe that the movie company was guilty of something, and we couldn't determine that the movie company was guilty of anything, he said. Giddings also said the investigation revealed that while there were questions about some of Wood Jr.'s behaviors, they were not blown up as big as what the family had described. We determined that he wasn't happy there, and there were several people who weren't happy with him, Giddings told the news outlet. In a statement to Oxygen.com, current Sheriff Doug Ulmer described Wood Jr.'s disappearance as an open case, but said the department has been challenged by a lack of resources and the challenging terrain. Our county is approximately 8,500 square miles, bigger than some states, with approximately 16,000 people, he said. The area he went missing in is rugged and secluded with dirt roads and no cell service. There was an extensive search when he went missing and no real leads. Although he said there are no new leads at this time, Ulmer said he is hopeful that the start of hunting season will mean that more people will be once again scouring the area. You always hope for something to turn up in these cases to give the family some closure, he said. Without clear answers about what happened to his son, Woods Sr. said he has no closure and has not been able to heal. I want justice. I want to find the truth out. Whatever happened to him, that's what I need to know, he said. I'm going to find the truth out one way or another. This is the Charlie Project page for Terrence Woods Jr. His full name is Terrence Shamil Woods Jr. And as I've said, he's been missing since October 5th, 2018, from Idaho County, Idaho. He's a black male, date of birth October 24th, 1991. So he would be 31 years old today. So he went missing October 2018. So he would have turned, or his birthday would have happened that same month that he went missing. So that's sad. So at the time he went missing, he was 26 years old. He was, or is, 5'9", 150 pounds. He was wearing a light brown sweatshirt and black cargo pants. He's an African American male, black hair, brown eyes. Woods has a tattoo of a black oval on the inside of his left wrist. A photo of it is posted with the case summary. So it's right here. You can see the tattoo on his left wrist, on the inside of his left wrist. And these are more pictures of him. Get a good look at his face. Let's see what it says. Details of disappearance. Woods was last seen in the vicinity of Penman Mine near the ghost town of Oro Grande in Idaho County, Idaho on October 5th, 2018. A production assistant from Prince George's County, Maryland. He was in the area helping film a documentary on abandoned gold mines for a British television show called Whitewater. Okay, well, this says he was filming for a British television show called Whitewater. Other places it says the show was called Gold Mine. But I guess that's not an important area. The fact was he was working on a TV show. He was supposed to be working with the crew up until mid-November, but a few days before his disappearance, he texted his parents to say he was cutting his trip short and would be home on October 10th. Wood's co-workers on the production crew said he was acting strange, and at some point he ran into the woods and never returned. At first, the rest of the crew thought he might have fallen off a cliff, but when they arrived at the cliff, they saw him down at the bottom still running. His co-workers reported him missing at 5:30 p.m. Woods is a graduate of the University of Maryland and previously worked for the hit TV show The Voice. He lived in London, England for several years after graduation and returned to the United States in 2018. His loved ones stated that he had traveled extensively for work as far as Morocco, and it was uncharacteristic of him to cut a trip short and return home early. His mother theorizes he may have been afraid of someone he was working with in Idaho, and that's why he wanted to leave. Police stated there was no indication of foul play in this case, or in his case, but the circumstances of his disappearance are unclear. So this is the Charlie Project page for Terrence Woods Jr. So you can go there and look at this if you want more information. It gives the sources where they got the information from. Okay, and this is the uncovered.com page for Terrence Woods Jr. Uncovered.com is a great resource if you're interested in true crime for missing people or unsolved murders and stuff like that. So this is uncovered.com, and I'll give you a description of uncovered.com. It says, Uncovered is where the most passionate true crime enthusiasts can learn from and teach others. Dig deeper into the stories you've heard before and encounter many others you haven't in ways that actually help. So this is uncovered.com, and this is their page for Terrence Woods Jr. And you can become a member, you can create an account, and you can follow his case and other cases if you're interested. This page was last updated October 19th of 2022 of last year. And it says, Overview of Terrence Woods Jr. On October 5th, 2018, Terrence Woods Jr. was a TV producer and on set filming Discovery's Gold Rush in Idaho backcountry near the Oro Grande Nez Perce National Forest, Idaho. Terrence is described as a black man, short black hair, brown eyes, and 130 pounds. Remember, somewhere else I read it about 150 pounds, but he was 26 at the time of his disappearance. And also, it says 26 at the time of his disappearance. Somewhere else I read he was 27. And this says age at incident 30. He would have been 30 when this page was updated, but or actually, I think he would have been 31. He was born in 1991. So just, always remember when you're online, a lot of typos or discrepancies in news reports or on web pages. Sometimes they'll have the age wrong, the weight, but like right here it says his current age is 31. So we'll go with that. His current age would be 31. And his weight is about 150 pounds, although up here it says 130 pounds. His height's 5'9", and of course he's a black male. Now we're going to look at the timeline that they have at uncovered.com. So October 5th, 2018, Terrence and the crew start filming. Terrence is a TV producer for Discovery's Gold Rush and is on set. Terrence notifies Raw TV that he is going home this week to visit his mother, who is sick. And remember, as we read earlier, his mother was not really sick or going to have surgery. That's just something he told them, apparently, so that he could go back home on the 10th and leave the set. October 5th, 2018, 8:34 a.m. Terrence texts his dad. He tells his father that he is coming home on October 10th. So early the evening of that same day, October 5th, Terrence vanishes. Around 5:30 p.m., Terrence surprises his coworkers when he removes his radio and runs down the side of a steep cliff before disappearing into the forest. There are multiple witnesses. Associate producer Simon Gee says that Terrence is running faster than he's ever seen anyone run in an interview. And so he goes missing at Penman Mine. This is where they were filming, right here in the Nez Perce National Forest in Idaho. So this is where, and it's a very rugged wilderness area. It's lots of forests, land. So somebody could easily go missing and not be found there. So at 6:41 p.m. on that same day, Terrence is reported missing to authorities. So he goes missing about 5:30 p.m. and at 6:41 they call in to report him missing. The film crew calls in to report him missing. So October 6th, the next day, because it became dark, so they couldn't search in the dark, so they started the search the next day. Well, it says that evening the search party starts. So let's read what it says. Due to the time of the report, the official search for Terrence is held off until the day after he was last seen. The Idaho County Sheriff's Office is called to do a land and air search party. Raw UK, where Terrence works, also assists in searching for him. Search dogs assist in the attempt to locate Terrence, but they lose his scent when they reach the road that sits at the base of the cliff. And the fact that the dogs lost his scent is, I think, one of the reasons why his father, Terrence Wood Sr., thinks that he may have been left in a vehicle, that he may have been picked up in a vehicle, I guess either, by a criminal or some pre-planned arrangement. But just because the dogs lose a scent doesn't necessarily mean anything, because weather can affect the scents that dogs can follow. I'm not an expert on this, but I've read before and heard before that, weather like rain, snow, wind, those types of things can affect the dog's scent trail. So just because the scent ended at the road doesn't necessarily mean that he did get into a vehicle and leave the area. So the scent trail could have just stopped for the dogs. October 7th, 2018, the search for Terrence continues. 2 days after Terrence was last seen, officials continue their search. At this time, the search consists of ground searchers, search dog teams, U.S. Forest Service personnel, fish and game personnel, and the backcountry rescue helicopter team. So they had a lot of different people and organizations searching for him on October 7th, 2 days after he went missing. October 8th, the next day, a UHI helicopter from a nearby Air Force base joins the search. On the third day of searching, a I said UHIs, UH-1 helicopter from the Fairchild Air Force Base joins the search. October 11th, the search party ends. So after 7 days of searching, there is still no sign of Terrence, and the search ends. According to deputies, no leads were obtained from the previous 7 days of searching, and no signs of Mr. Woods have been located in the search area or the expanded search area. So not only did they not find Terrence, they did not find any evidence of what could have happened to him, as far as none of his clothing was found, no blood was found, and nothing that looked like a crime scene, or an auto accident. Like if he had ran into a road and got hit by a vehicle, there was no evidence around showing that a person had been hit by a vehicle, for example. There's just nothing, absolutely nothing found of him within this search. So October 2018, Terrence's parents meet with officials and the production crew. Shortly after Terrence vanishes, his parents sit down with officials from the Idaho County Sheriff's Office as well as the production crew who last saw Terrence. According to his father, the production crew, thought he fell off a cliff, but by the time he got over there, my son was 15 feet down the cliff running like a hare. So one of the witnesses told his father that he was running like a hare, meaning, he was running fast. In one interview, he said he was running faster than he had ever seen anybody run before. So Valerie Woods is the mother, and Terrence Woods is the father. And Simon Gee is a person with information, a witness. Simon Gee was working on the show with Terrence Woods Jr. This is the YouTube page called Find Terrence Woods, and it just has one video posted on it right now, but it's a Dr. Phil show about this. So his parents were interviewed on the Dr. Phil television show. So you can go to this YouTube channel to watch that. I can't play it because, of course, it was copyrighted. It's Dr. Phil's show. Let me click on it right here. There's a picture of Terrence Woods right there. See what some of the comments say. Let me see if there's some newer comments. Karen Noseworthy said, I would start looking between the airport and the hotel. I guess meaning that he ran off back to the hotel or to the airport to get out of there. There is no way that young guy is down that hill. I got a feeling he didn't make it to the movie site. I think they took his life as soon as he got into Ohio. Okay, it wasn't Ohio, it was Idaho, and I'm not so sure. I don't think this was like a planned murder attack on him. There's no evidence of that, and there's no motive for that. Let's see what Justina says. Justina says this sheriff is very dodgy, uncaring, smiling while telling the story, inaccurate and frequent changes to the story, obvious bias in his recount of details due to him knowing people in the production team, hardly any investigation done past physically looking for him, not allowing the family details from the case to allow them to continue their own investigation. The description of Terrence was vague and leaned towards negative racial coding. The reflection from Raw TV was conflicting. Was he a bad hire or was he well liked? He obviously was a good hire from the frequency of his working. I feel it's a case of birds of a feather flocking together. What a shame. So that's how Justina feels about it. Let's see. Stephen Johnson says the evidence is where is his clothes he wore or worked in the previous 3 days. That's a good question. In this Dr. Phil episode, it does talk about, his father talks about anyway, that when he looked in his son's suitcase in his hotel room, they never found his dirty clothes. So I don't know if his dirty clothes were like somewhere at a laundromat, like in a hotel laundromat, washing machine, and just were never recovered or found, or were they stashed in the back of a rental car or one of the crew members' cars or something. Or maybe was he the type of person who just, like some people, they just throw out their dirty clothes, like trash them, and then put on New clean outfit. Maybe he did wear the same clothes for 3 or 4 days. That is possible. If somebody's, having mental health issues, emotional issues, maybe he just didn't change his clothes for a few days. That is possible. So, but they did not find any dirty clothes like, socks, pants, shirts, underwear, any dirty clothes that, or what looked to his father that to have been worn clothes. In other words, like the clothes that his dad found in his suitcase were all clean and freshly folded, according to his father. But maybe he was just a very neat person and he refolded his clothes after he wore them. You know, the sheriff said walked out or had a ride pick him up. Really? Well, because the dogs lost the scent at the road, I guess that's what he's referring to, that maybe somebody picked him up. That would have had to been a pre planned event to have somebody down there when he got off work and ran down that hill apparently and disappeared to meet him at that road to pick him up. So I don't think he pre planned anything to have somebody come pick him up. It would be great if he did, that we would know that he just decided he wanted to leave and start a new life somewhere or go into hiding and, that he's still alive somewhere. But I don't think that's what happened here. And I don't think that there is foul play in regards to like somebody on the road like a criminal just happened to be driving by when after Terrence decides to run off or something spooks him or he decides to run away down a steep hill and he just happens to meet a criminal who then kidnaps him or something. I don't think that happened. And there's no evidence that he was hit by a vehicle. There's no blood in the road or anything like that. So let's see. Interview each of the crew he was working with. Sounds very likely that there could have been some bullying. Maybe he was even tricked or spiked with a hallucinogenic drug which caused him to hurt himself accidentally. Or maybe he was pushed off the cliff and then carried to the road nearby. All fingers point at Terrence's colleagues at this point and should be the focus of the police. Within a day of Terrence going missing, there was another lady ranger who went missing in the same area. Okay, first of all, I didn't hear about that. So there's a lady ranger who went missing in the same area. I'll have to look that up. I did not know that. So that's interesting if somebody else went missing in the same area during the same time period. But like I've said before, it's a rugged area, so it is possible people get lost in the forest, in the woods, or fall in holes, fall off cliffs, and stuff like that. So, as he said, talks about drugs, hallucinogenic drugs. That's another possible thing. Could Terrence Woods have been using drugs or taken a drug that day, on his own, or like this person says, maybe somebody gave him a drug and he reacted badly to it. Maybe crew members were, doing some types of drugs and they offered him one and he took it voluntarily. This guy suggests in this comment that they spiked him or, unknowingly gave him a drug. That's possible too. Anything's possible since we don't know what happened. But I'm thinking, Hollywood, and everywhere else, there are lots of drugs around. Could maybe the crew have been partaking in some drug use, either to help them stay awake, just to party, just to make them mellow, or whatever? He was there 3 to 4 days. Could it have been possible that drugs were involved and that is what made his mental health or emotional health decline so quickly and rapidly? That's possible. And then what they said happened was true, that he did run off like they said he did, but they just left out the detail that they thought it was because he had taken drugs or that he had been given drugs. That's possible. Drugs, mental health issues and drug issues can make people do weird and crazy things. Like regular people who are quote unquote, behaving normally don't just all of a sudden take off or disappear. Something happens. So what led up to his disappearance? What led to him, if he did run off, to run off? Or what led up to him disappearing at all? Let's focus on the days before he went missing. What if he didn't send that message? Okay, so they're saying that maybe he disappeared before they even said he disappeared. Why did they speak so bad about his performance? And the fact that the dad couldn't find any dirty clothes made me really think something happened way before they said he went missing. And why haven't they spoke more about the kid that needed therapy because of that day? I want to know why the kid needed therapy. Why haven't I heard about this in the news? As if he isn't important because he is a young black man. Shaking my head. Um, I'm guessing because in the Dr. Phil show they talk about apparently some basketball player and his two sons. I believe his two sons were in the area, and due to what happened, one of them needed some therapy or something. That is weird, and I don't think the Dr. Phil show explains that at all. So I don't know. That's something else I need to look up. I don't know, but apparently maybe a little kid was on this or on the set watching. Maybe the basketball player and the kids were on set for whatever reason, and they saw him run off and disappear, and how everybody reacted and went all crazy and ended up calling 911 and the police came. Maybe it just that spooked them. I don't know what they're talking about there. Very strange case. What did they do to him? So this person thinks the film crew or people with him did something to him. That's crazy. Missing 411 phenomena is a real thing. People seem to get into a trance and lose their mind and go missing. It's really strange. Anyways, I hope for the best. That's sad. Odd things happen. People have, mental breakdowns, psychotic breakdowns, or drugs, or just not thinking right. Make people do some weird stuff. So he just ran off over a cliff. Terrence wanted to come home early. Did they fire him? Did they play mind games with him to make him want to quit? What about cell phone pings? This is very, very suspicious to me. Carla Bling says, this is such a mystery, this poor family. Hope they get answers. Jenny Van Niekerk says, that sheriff is hiding something. Why are there no maps if there had been mine shafts? Well, that's another thing. There's a lot of mine shafts in the area. Apparently, this area had like mine shafts where people could, apparently fall in and get hurt. So that's another thing to think about. What bothers me is that, yes, he was apparently running, but what was he running from? Okay, so she believes that he did run away because there's lots of witnesses, not just the film crew, but who said that they saw him running. But what was he running from? Well, sometimes people who have mental breakdowns just start running for whatever reason. And I've seen people on drugs, and I've also seen mentally ill people just take off running. It does happen. But what made him become mentally ill so quick? Like, apparently he had been fine before he came to Idaho. What happened to him once he got to Idaho or before he came to Idaho? Why did his mental health decline? Was it work stress, not getting along with coworkers, or what happened? Dr. Phil is tripping over himself to thank the sheriff. Ridiculous. Dr. Phil's heart is not even in this story. He sounds perfunctory, okay? One of the directors claimed that he was disappointed about Terrence's performance on set. So apparently things weren't going well. I think we conclude by what everybody has said, even though they said it in a polite way, that there were some issues definitely between Terrence and his co-workers, supervisors regarding his job performance or something like that. Either, some say Terrence wasn't happy being there, and some people have said they weren't happy with Terrence. So the police chief explained that Terrence discussed with a total stranger that he was having problems with his family. Yeah, right. They're trying to create a reason for Terrence to have had a mental breakdown. So I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe Terrence was having other issues besides work issues. Maybe he was having family issues or issues with a significant other that I don't know about. Maybe, his personal life as far as his family, friends, in addition to his coworkers. Family problems can make you have work problems at work. and vice versa. So they are all covering up the truth, the crew and the authorities. Most likely, someone on the crew killed him, and they are all covering it up. I would not be surprised if Terrence was not the person who sent the final text to his father. The crew and authorities are trying to paint Terrence as unstable and emotionally distraught. I can get because TV shows because they're very one sided. Dr. Phil really didn't give all sides to this story, so I can see how people would think, "Oh, this is a cover up. This is a conspiracy." But you got to remember, it's not just the raw TV production employees who were there. There were other people there too who witnessed this. And so it can't be that everybody's is not everything in life is always a conspiracy. Not every person who goes missing is murdered. People do voluntarily go missing, or people do get upset or have mental health issues and disappear. It does happen. Sadly, this young man met with foul play. Those responsible have been protected by the authorities for obvious reasons. Be careful. Some of those people are evil and cannot be trusted. Good or bad, they will always protect their own. See, a lot of people are thinking foul play, but always try to think about things logically and look at the evidence. Look what witnesses have said, not just one or two witnesses, but look at what each witness said, what the police investigation has shown. Not everybody can be a dirty cop, not everybody can be a dirty witness, not everybody's lying. There are regular people out there who tell the truth, who have no motive or no reason to lie. And I think a lot of people think because Terrence Woods was a young black man, that is why he went missing or that something happened to him and they're covering it up because he was black and maybe all the others on the set were white. I don't believe this is a racial thing. I haven't seen no evidence of that. This is crazy because I went to high school with Terrence. We've had several classes together. I didn't really know him well because I was an outcast. I never spoke to anyone, but he was friends with most people in our classes. It's hard for me to believe he just freaked out one day for no reason. I think he was running from someone. It's possible that he was running from something, but was it due to mental psychosis or drug psychosis? You know what I'm saying? Like, if he was in fear of somebody, he had access to cell phones, and not everybody there could be a murderer. He could have just called 911, said, "I don't feel safe, get me out of here." I mean, try to think logically. I try to put myself in other people's shoes. I just don't see this as where he's working on this TV show and all his coworkers are out to get him. Because he's black. I just don't see that here. And this guy thinks it was race too. So a lot of people think that, but I don't see it. But I'm on the outside looking in. I don't live there in Idaho where this happened, and I'm not familiar with the people who worked on the production crew. So who knows. Another person went missing that day in the same area. Her name was Connie Johnson. Very strange circumstances about both cases. Sounds like the two were murdered by a psycho. Hmm. I'll have to look up Connie Johnson, but you know, strange, strange things happen because she had just accidentally got hurt or got lost around the time that he ran off and went missing. Who knows? What did that kid see that he needed a counselor for? That's a good question. I have no idea, but that is in the Dr. Phil episode, but it doesn't go into detail. So who knows? If anybody does know, please comment down below because I would love to know what did the kid see? What does that have to do with this story? There's something very ominous in those mountains. Well, something ominous about the mountains is that they're so rugged, the terrain is so rough that anybody who didn't know their way around could get lost, and people who do know their way around get lost. So, and the cell phone service is not there. So, if you get lost, unless you have like a satellite phone, an emergency transponder or something, you're lost until you find your way out or somebody finds you. And it a lot of people go missing in forests and woods and are never found. So the police officer is in on it. I don't believe that. The officer lying, like, I don't believe that. Says T didn't run into the woods. He wasn't athletic and didn't play sports for real. If he took off running, somebody would have been able to catch him. Lie detector tests need to be done. What info do the parents not have? They never articulated what they were missing, nor have they been to Idaho to talk to the sheriff and see the scene of his disappearance for themselves. The crew did it. So weird and creepy. Reminds me of the Lars Matank disappearance. I hope the family gets answers as to what happened. And I believe Lars Matank is the case in Europe. I forget what country, maybe Belgium or some country, I forget, in Europe, where the guy was supposed to get on a airplane to go back home, but I believe he was at the airport when he just took off running, and he has never been found. He just bolted out of the airport, took off running into a field, disappeared, and he has never been found. His body has never been found, and he's never been found alive. It's just so odd how people can just disappear. But this is just another example of that. It does happen. It does happen where people have mental breakdowns, drug induced breakdowns, or whatever, and they just take off running and they disappear. I have seen people, in my lifetime who react to drugs and they do odd stuff. So it does happen. Who wears shoes like those in the woods? A young kid. Look, people go missing every year without a trace. That doesn't mean foul play. I think he's seen something that scared the hell out of him. A hunter will probably find something of his miles away. So far, to my knowledge, no hunter in the area or camper or hiker has found anything. And it's been so long, and Idaho's, they get lots and lots of snow during the winter and stuff. And animals could have dragged off, clothing. If let's say he did pass away in the woods there or something, all that would be left by now would be bones, and his clothing could have been dragged off and chewed up, disintegrated. So if he is there somewhere in Idaho in the woods, maybe one day somebody will find a bone, they'll test it, and it will be his DNA, and they will at least know that he probably died there in the woods. They won't tell him how he died or why he died, but maybe they'll have at least know what happened to him, that he is deceased for sure. The story the production company tells makes no sense. It makes no sense for a reason. It's not the truth. It's not what happened, and they know it. Something happened, sinister or not, but he had something happen to him, and they are covering it up. I'm calling foul play. Did he even really make it to the shoot that day? Let's see. Running suggests fearful surprise, perhaps an animal. Aren't there bear and mountain lion up there? He might have fallen in a shaft. That seems logical. However, running for your life is that. From who or what is the question? I think an animal, but those watching him would see something behind him in the chase and no trace of him. Either he fell in shaft or he was removed from the site. There really are few possibilities. Someone on that crew knows more. Suitcase changes everything. The crew left him, so they left the scene prior to calling it in to local police? Sheriff seems aloof, like this happens often in his town. I wish they would have gone more into detail of what the private investigators found out. They said they found stuff that no one else had told them, but left it at that. Also, what did the son of the basketball player see that was so devastating that he needed help afterwards? A lot of questions that should have been asked answered weren't. Well, that's the usual way the media or TV talk shows do. They leave a lot of unanswered questions. So anyway, this is the YouTube site for Find Terrence Woods. And I'm going to look also at the Instagram. There's an Instagram page. It says Find Terrence Woods. So you can go on this Instagram page if you want more information about this case. And then also there's a Twitter page. If you're on Twitter, Find Terrence Woods. See if I can click on some of these pictures. Today, the 5th of October, marks 4 years since our son Terrence Woods Jr. mysteriously disappeared on location in Idaho with a 12-person crew from Raw TV and Discovery Channel. 4 years of sleepless nights for us and his siblings. 4 years of the entire TV and film industry ignoring his existence. 4 years of Raw TV and Discovery Channel not taking accountability or providing any in-depth information about what happened to Terrence. 4 years of more freelancers living with anxiety and depression because they're worried about the consequences of speaking out. We want our son back home where he belongs. Find Terrence Woods. So as you can see, his father obviously is desperate for answers, and he's working hard to get answers. It says 3 tragic losses in the film and TV industry. So Terrence Woods, of course, he went missing, and this is Helena, or I think it's Helena Hutchins, who was tragically shot by Alec Baldwin on a movie set. And Sarah Jones, I'm not sure. I believe she was accidentally killed on a film set. I'm not sure. So anyway, it's just very sad. So don't forget that you can go online to the YouTube, Instagram, Twitter page and either like the page or subscribe to the page to get updates on this case. Because all the families can do is keep the word out there that he is missing. So maybe something like a tourist will go to Idaho and they'll be walking in the woods and they'll see something and it'll refresh their memory. Oh, I read about that. That possibly could be a piece of clothing from Terrence Woods Jr., who went missing here several years ago. So they turn that over to police. Police come and they search the area and they find more evidence of Terrence. So, just anything like that could happen. So you never know. So just help get the word out about Terrence Woods Jr., because that's all that can be done at this point. I guess, they have no leads to go search for him anywhere else other than the Idaho woods, and they haven't found anything yet. So I looked up the case of Connie Johnson, who went missing in Idaho around the same time as Terrence Woods did. And so I'm going to read an article from the eastidahonews.com about Connie Johnson's case. It says 2 people missing in separate cases in Idaho County. And this was published October 8th of 2018. 2 people were missing in separate cases in Idaho County, the sheriff's office said. The sheriff's office was notified of 2 cases Friday. Connie Johnson, 76, of Nez Perce, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, was a cook at a hunting camp in the Fog Mountain area near Big Rock. The last known communication was reported Tuesday. The rest of the group arrived at the campsite on Friday, and Johnson was nowhere to be found, the sheriff's office said. The second incident involves Terrence Woods, 27, of Maryland. He was filming in the Oro Grande area and was separated from his film crew. He was last seen near the Penman Mine area near Oro Grande on Friday. As of Monday afternoon, neither person had been located. The sheriff's office and other agencies are involved in the search. Okay, so let's go to the Charlie Project to see Connie Marie Johnson's Charlie Project page. It says she's been missing since October 2nd, 2018, so just a few days before Terrence Woods went missing on October 5th, 2018. But their last known contact with her, like over radios, I believe, was on the 2nd, but they didn't report her missing until the 5th when they got back to camp and she wasn't at the camp. So apparently before she was reported missing, she had, or they think she was missing for a few days, but they're not sure, I don't think. Anyway, she went missing October 2nd, 2018 from Idaho County, Idaho. She's classified as lost, injured, missing. Terrence Woods was classified by the Charlie Project as endangered missing, and she's classified as lost, injured, missing. She's a white female who was born December 11th, 1941. If alive today, she would be 81 years old. At the time of her disappearance, she was 76. Her height is listed as 5'7" and weight 140 pounds. Clothing, jewelry description. And this is important, and it's important because let's say she did go and get lost in the woods. Jewelry or clothing or other evidence of her being there might be still in the woods and somebody might see it one day, which could lead to her remains. So that's good that they list what jewelry she was wearing. Anyway, it says possibly a green shirt, green pants, and Kenetrek hiking boots, possibly size 9.5, women's. Johnson is a retired Forest Service employee and might have been wearing her old Forest Service clothes. So since she worked for the Forest Service, she's an experienced outdoor woman. Distinguishing characteristics: Caucasian female, blonde hair, blue eyes. Johnson's ears are pierced. She may use the last name Sailor. I guess that's important, like if she was disoriented and instead of saying her name was Connie Johnson, she could say Connie Sailor. So this is her picture with her glasses, her earrings there. And then this is the dog. This is her dog that she went missing with. So this is Connie Marie Johnson. And her dog's name was Ace. Johnson was last seen at Big Rock Base Camp in Idaho County, Idaho, 14 miles from the town of Powell, on October 2nd, 2018. So she was actually seen in person on October 2nd. But, sometime between the 2nd and the 5th is, when they think she disappeared. She worked as a camp cook for Ritchie Outfitters, which organizes hunting trips in the Montana and Idaho wilderness. The place she disappeared from is only accessible on foot or by horseback. She had previously worked as a wilderness ranger for the U.S. Forest Service, and her friends stated had good survival skills and 25 years of wilderness experience. So the area where she went missing is only accessible by foot or on horseback. So in other words, no SUVs or cars were there. I mean, if she either walked away or she rode away on a horseback, and there's no evidence that she went away on a horse. So she was last seen when the hunters left the camp. So the hunters go out to do their hunting in the woods there, and she's left behind at the camp because she's a cook there. The next day, October 3rd, the hunters had radio contact with Johnson but were unable to understand what she was saying. So October 3rd, they're in contact by the radio, but they said that they couldn't understand what she was saying. So either there's problems with the radios, or maybe there's something wrong with her. Maybe she had an accident, or she was having a medical issue, or something else. Maybe somebody came upon her and hurt her. She has never been heard from again. When the hunters returned to the campsite on October 5th, Johnson and her border collie dog named Ace were both gone. She had left her jacket behind on a table, lying on top of her gun. So her jacket and gun were still there, but she and her dog were gone. The search for Johnson was called off on October 16th. 3 weeks later, Ace was found wandering alone at the Moose Creek Ranger Station, about 15 miles from the campsite Johnson disappeared from. Although underweight, the dog was in good health. So the dog survived and made it back to people. He found people. In other words, they didn't find him searching for her. The dog just went back to where people were without Connie. A photo of Ace is posted with this case summary. There was no sign of Johnson. Johnson's daughter, who lives out of state, does not believe her mother's disappearance was intentional. Her case remains unsolved. And some people think, well, she was 76, so she just had a medical issue or dementia and wandered off, but Who knows? Anyway, her dog um, made it back, but she didn't. Okay, now we're going to go to strangeoutdoors.com. This is an article from March of 2019. It says the strange disappearance of Connie Johnson from Big Fog Mountain. In early October 2018, Connie Marie Johnson, 76, was working as a camp cook for Ritchie Outfitters based in Salmon, Idaho, in the area around Big Fog Mountain near Big Rock in Grangeville in Idaho. The area was very remote with no roads and it was only accessible by horse or on foot. She was last seen on October 2nd, 2018, when the hunters left the camp. According to County Sheriff Doug Giddings, the next day the hunters had radio contact with Connie, but they were unable to understand what she was saying as the radio transmission was weak. So they couldn't understand her because the radio transmission was weak. So I don't know if she was trying to tell them anything or if she was having a medical issue or not. It could have just been that the radios were weak. When they returned to the camp on October 5th, Connie and her dog Ace were gone. So this is where she went missing from. And down here, this is the area where Terrence Woods Jr. went missing. So Connie was an experienced outdoors person and she had previously worked as a U.S. Forest Service wilderness ranger at the Moose Creek Ranger Station. And the Moose Creek Ranger Station, if you remember, is where Ace, her dog, ended up. He turned back up there, but she did not. She was also a member of the Selway Bitterroot Foundation, and she frequently led young people and other groups on tours of the backcountry in the area. Her friends said she was very experienced in the backcountry and knew how to survive even if something went wrong. Chris Atkins, a former colleague, says it's reconcilable. You know, what everyone is dealing with this. Because like you said, this isn't like some pilgrim's first rodeo. This is a woman who spent literally the last 25 years of her life, most of them on foot in the wilderness, alone doing her wilderness range work. And if there's anybody that has a skill set that positions them to beat this, it's Connie. In an oral history Johnson recorded for the Selway Bitterroot Foundation, she talked about her experience in the backcountry after relocating from Iowa years before. So this is Connie Johnson speaking. I don't remember really being afraid of anything. I'm a spiritual and faithful person, and I kind of gave over my life to, there's God taking care of me, and I know that, but I did learn too. And I don't remember being fearful. There were lightning storms, and there were creek crossings, and there were lots of challenging things physically, but I'm naturally an impatient person, and this taught me, since I was by myself, to be very careful about where you put your feet. Connie, if you get hurt here, there's no way anybody's going to help you. You're on your own. So it taught me to plan ahead about how I would negotiate this or that, or how I would deal with the water supply or bee stings and that kind of thing. I just love being in that place so much. It just took care of me. It's a pretty overpowering feeling to look up into those hills, and especially being a flatlander like I was. I still am in awe of the power of those mountains and the power of the weather and the creeks and just the sheer hugeness of it and the fact that we're not in control of anything. She was 5'7", 140 pounds, and had blonde hair and blue eyes. The search. A large search with searchers on foot and tracking canines was quickly deployed and involved aircraft deploying FLIR heat technology from the United States Air Force, the Idaho National Guard, the Clearwater County Backcountry Helicopter Rescue Team. But no trace of Connie was found, and the search was ended on October 16, 2018. 3 weeks later, the dog, Ace, turned up at the Moose Creek Ranger Station, around 15 miles from the camp, but without Connie. The dog was examined, fed, and then taken out to search for its owner, but to no avail. So once they got the dog ready, they took him back out to see if he could find his owner, Connie. but they didn't have any luck. They was hoping the dog would lead them back to her. What happened to Connie in October 2018? Given her experience in the outdoors, she was well equipped for survival. Did she fall ill or have an accident? Did something else happen that day? Her daughter said she could only speculate about what happened to her mother, but did not believe her disappearance was intentional. I think that she was enjoying the outdoors, which she loves, and something happened. The weather came up, she fell, I don't know, but I think that she got surprised. Given the temperature, given the lack of time, given the lack of signs of her, and the fact that Ace is not with her, all points to, and it just ends there. The Terrence Woods disappearance. By coincidence, Terrence Woods, 27, was reported missing around 5:30 p.m. on the same day in the Oro Grande area of Idaho in mysterious circumstances. He was a production assistant from Maryland helping film a documentary on Penman Mine for a British TV show called Whitewater, also known as Gold Rush, I guess. At some point, he ran off into the woods for some reason and has never been found. Terrence's father said the production crew, thought he fell off a cliff, but by the time he got over there, my son was 15 feet down the cliff, running like a hare. So I said, "What do you mean running like a hare?" He said, "He runs so fast, I ain't never seen nobody run that fast." You can't get lost out there because if you get lost out there, you're going to run into a road or houses. So he didn't just poof, vanish and disappear. No, he made it to that road. Someone picked him up. That's what his father said. That's what his father was thinking. But I don't know if his father actually ever been to the area to see how it is. Despite an extensive search, no leads were obtained from the previous 7 days of searching, and no signs of Terrence were located in the search area or the expanded search area. So we're going to click on this to take us. Okay. This was written in May 20th of 2020, the shockingly weird disappearance of Terrence Woods. On October 5th, 2018, 27-year-old Terrence Shamel Woods, a freelance filmmaker, was working with a production company filming a reality show at Penman Mine in western Idaho. Whilst the crew was wrapping up, Terrence jumped off the cliff and sprinted into the thick mountain forest, stunning the entire crew. Before anyone could respond, Terrence had disappeared without a trace. So it's the same information we've gone over before. Then it says, on the same day, Connie Johnson disappeared in strange circumstances from Fog Mountain in Idaho, around 56 miles to the north. So I don't know if she exactly went missing on the same day, but it was on the same day that they discovered that she was missing. That's her picture right there. On Sunday, October 7th, at approximately 5:30 p.m., the Idaho County Sheriff's Office was advised of another missing person. So, yeah, we have another one. Okay, so 42-year-old Jose Mendez Morales of Tacoma, Washington, left his residence and was going to Elk City, Idaho. Jose checked in with his family from Grangeville on September 25th, but no one has heard from him since. He normally checks in every 3 days. Jose is believed to be driving a red and white Ford F-250 in Washington with a Washington license plate A84361P. So I didn't know about this person. So apparently a man named Jose Mendez Morales also went missing on October 7th, just a couple of days after Connie and Terrence went missing. Penman Mine is located in the Oro Grande area, which is part of the larger Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest. It's in Idaho County, a mountainous 8,500 square mile region of western Idaho. Nez Perce is 2,224,091 acres U.S. National Forest located in west central Idaho and is made up of 4 separate wilderness areas. This is a picture from the area. It's a beautiful area. But look just how dense the forest is and how, rocky it is. I mean, somebody could easily fall and get hurt, or somebody could get lost easily in the woods there. At least I would. The Nez Perce Clearwater National Forests are located in the heart of north central Idaho. It stretches from the Oregon border on the west to the Montana border on the east and is bounded by the Idaho Panhandle National Forest on the north to the Salmon River on the south. It is located within the Lata, Nez Perce, Idaho, Clearwater, and Lewis counties. The forest was the traditional home of the Nimimpyu, who were later named the Nez Perce Indians by the Lewis and Clark expeditions. And I know I'm pronouncing all this wrong, but to show respect to the Nez Perce tribe, the name Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest was chosen when the forest administratively combined in 2012. The Nez Perce National Forest was created by Executive Order number 854, signed by President Theodore Roosevelt. That order, which became effective July 1st, 1908, established the forest from lands given up by the Bitterroot and Weiser National Forests. On October 29, 1934, part of Selway National Forest was added by Executive Order 6889. So this is just history about the forest there and all that. It says the mountains in this forest provide wildlife habitats for timber wolves, raccoons, moose, black bears, coyotes, cougar, elk, and other forest animals. And this is the Penman Mine area. Remember, Penman Mine is where Terrence Woods went missing. So, the terrain is very mountainous in the 5 to 7,000 range and thick with multi-year deadfalls of large trees, making travel by foot difficult in areas. Terrence grew up in Capitol Heights, Maryland, with his parents and three siblings and was a University of Maryland graduate. He lived in London for several years, attending the American International University before moving back to the USA in 2018. He was an experienced journalist who had traveled the world working on documentaries and television shows, often working in tough situations whilst filming. His father said he had no history of panic attacks or psychiatric issues such as depression. He appeared to have been prepared for the wilderness shoot. His parents were given his backpack that he had left at the site. Inside it was a couple of camera bags, batteries, Sharpie pens, over-the-counter painkillers, and cough drops, hand cream, iPhone charger, a 3-inch folding tactical knife, and a stun gun. He'd been on several different rugged wilderness shoots prior to this, including Turkey and Alaska, so he has experience in the backcountry in this section of Idaho, but never in the location of the mine. So that's new information to me. So he has worked in Idaho before, if I'm reading this correctly, but not in that specific location, but he has worked in the backcountry of Idaho before. Friends say he didn't really want to go on this trip based on text messages before he left. Friends weren't shocked by the comments, but thought it was unusual after the fact. So I guess he just wasn't feeling it. He wasn't feeling well, having personal issues, family issues. He just didn't want to go on this trip. They said his behavior on the shoot didn't match what he was like in normal life. And then it goes into a timeline, which we've already discussed earlier. But I'll link this page down below for anybody who wants to go over that. So it looks like a more in-depth timeline. So let's see what it says. What does law enforcement think happened? Possible panic attack or mental breakdown, but there are conflicting reports of who said this. Some reports said he had to be detained before his disappearance, but later accounts said it was a debrief on the wildlife in the area, not detained. Law enforcement said he wanted to get lost. In an interview, the sheriff said there are about 2 people per square mile and 8,500 square miles, so it's only 16,000 people total. A very large, open, unpopulated area where you could go missing very easily. Let's see, what do family and friends think happened to Terrence? The parents suspect foul play, as we've talked about before, especially as the production crew and sheriff's office were very unhelpful. They think he was in an uncomfortable situation and he was trying to get away. Parents hinted at race playing a role. The father went on a radio station and this topic came up. The detective on the case responded via email explicitly denying race played any role in their investigation of Terrence. The detective further stated they were no longer going to communicate with Mr. Woods. Terrence Woods' older sister, Shania Tisdale, says her brother is a bright man who is ambitious and has a kind and loving heart, and that the activity Idaho County Police described is completely out of the ordinary. I talked to him before he went out there and he seemed fine. He was going to go out and do a job with the film crew, and he was going to come home, nothing abnormal, and he wasn't acting different. We talk all the time. He is not the type of person that would just run off or do anything like this. So it seems unusual to me, but I wasn't there, so I can only go by what they are saying. He's traveled around the world. He really likes to do TV. He is a loving person and caring and all around good person. Scenarios. So these are different scenarios that could have happened. Let's see. Suicide, mental breakdown. Terrence mentioned in his journal the Great Reset, where he said he was tired of traveling, was ready to head back home and settle down. Also, apparently, he was having some, emotional issues, and he didn't want to go on the trip. He wanted to go back home. Several entries in his journal about being tired of London life and all the travel. Law enforcement dismissed the journal as indecipherable rants and gave it back to his parents. Drug use. No mention of any of this in the research or reporting. So there's no, I guess, evidence or mention of drug use other than, over the counter meds that were in his backpack, which you would normally take on a trip. Afraid of a crew member based on possible text to his dad. I have never seen those texts. So if you know about the text, you can give information in the comments below or leave me a link. I'm just curious what um, the text said about his coworkers. Exposure or terminal burrowing. It would absolutely be too cold at night without gear in October. Perhaps he had gone to kill himself, maybe changed his mind, but was lost and succumbed to the elements. Most people have heard about paradoxical undressing, but a common problem for searchers is the fact that when people are hurt or about to die, they will almost burrow or hunker down into hard to see places. It's called terminal burrowing. An animal attack. Murder by one of the crew. Due to the high profile nature of the show, this seems unlikely. Call of the Void, also known as High Place Phenomenon, HPP. Since people often feel it when standing somewhere high up, you could also experience this type of impulse when doing other things that involve a high risk of danger. For example, the call of the void can involve thoughts or urges to jerk the steering wheel and turn into oncoming traffic while driving, jump into very deep water from a boat or bridge, stand on train or subway tracks, or jump in front of a train, cut yourself when holding a knife or other sharp object. When these urges come up, you quickly counter them, telling yourself you never do that. You know what would happen in any of those scenarios, but you still think about doing it however quickly the thought passes. Okay, I've never heard of this call of the void terminology. To me, this just talks about somebody wanting to hurt themselves. So that's just an odd way of putting it. I've never heard of that terminology before. Panic in the Woods. According to the blog The Paranormal Guide, panic in the woods has been associated with the pagan god Pan, protector of wild places, whose unseen presence inspires causeless terror. Victims experience an overwhelming feeling of paranoia, such as a sinister force nearby, and sense imminent danger. This usually leads to the person to flee the area, desperately seeking out civilization. One curiously common characteristic of panic is that people often describe that the woodlands will go completely silent, deafening the witness before the loud pitched sound sets in a few moments later. Deafening silence and paranoia in the woods are related to the real-life cryptid goat man and other group of paranormal monsters known as skinwalkers. At least one article on the phenomenon has been written for 14 Times magazine by Patrick Harper titled Landscapes of Panic. The behavior is a common post on many paranormal forums and message boards. Okay. So if you believe in that type of thing, that could be one scenario that happened that day. I lean more towards he had an emotional or mental breakdown and took off and ended up perishing there from the elements in the woods, unless he specifically on purpose jumped off a cliff somewhere or something. I guess that's the theory I'm leaning towards. Although he has never been found and no evidence has been found of him being deceased or alive, so it's important to keep both their pictures and names a description of their clothing and jewelry out there so that if anything's ever found in the woods, people will think, oh, that must be that person, and they can relate it back. Now, going back to that other young man, I've never heard of this case, so I don't know if he was ever found or not. But I know these two, Connie Johnson and Terrence Woods, have never been found.